you overcome that, you'll be able to like, wow, that was nothing. Like, why was I holding back for so long? So once you overcome that, you know you can accomplish anything you put your mind to. So if you've seen something scary, oh, like I don't want to do it, and you realize, oh, if you do it, like, wow, that was, you should have done that from the beginning. If you get it done with, then get it over and done with.
So why do we allow things like that to kind of snowball and persist then? Because if the hero is someone who overcomes, I mean, is there anything in your life at all that doesn't need overcoming? And if you really dig down deep into it, I mean, I'm sure all of us have something in life that needs to be overcome. Sad, not sad. The frightening part is when we realize that the thing that has to be overcome oftentimes is ourselves. And it's not just our nature that has to be overcome, but perhaps our nature has to be overcome. A lot of times what has to be overcome is this kind of faux and forced nature it's kind of imposed on us socially. In other words, there's a nature that we have, and then there's a nature to which we try to conform because we have to conform to live in a society. Think about what your natural inclinations are. You ever angry and you want to just smack somebody in the head?
Oh, all the time.
Wow, that was a lot of you. Okay. It's frightening. And why do you do that? Because that's your nature. And yet socially, you're forced to say, no, don't. And you're like, well, I want to. But you socially, you force yourself into this nature where you decide not to. Yeah. So sometimes the thing that you have to overcome is yourself. So here, and then, yeah.
I feel like it's saying to basically use your fear as motivation to keep you going.
How do you do that?
Like, so say you're afraid of someone, you just want to be better than that person. When you fear them, you know that you can be better than them.
So using the fear or a person to motivate you to keep going. I was just watching The Dark Knight. Yeah, so he fears bats, so he becomes a bat. There's also a neat scene in there where Batman asks the Joker, why are you trying to kill me? Any of you have seen this movie before? The Joker's like, I'm not trying to kill you. He says, I need you. You complete me. If there's no Batman, well, what the hell does Joker do? Yeah, because what happens when Joker wins? What happens when Joker gets a pile of money? What does he do with it?
He does whatever, but he gets tired of winning. He needs something to try to beat him. He needs competition.
Yeah, he needs the competition. That's what drives him. What he does with the pile of money, if you forgot, is he burns it. And the other mobsters are standing around like, what the hell is your problem? You know, I can't remember how much it was. It was tens of millions of dollars. But, I mean, how many people would look at a big pile of money? Many people would look at that and go, I'm set for life. No, Joker looks at that and says, that pile of money is a problem in my life. Because that pile of money makes me complacent. That pile of money will stop me from pushing myself forward and doing something. And sometimes the things that you want in life, you're going to find out are just like that. You know, you might be like, okay, I finally got that thing. And once you get that one thing, you're now complacent. And you aren't going to maybe have the opportunity to become what you could have become. Because it's now holding you back. Because you're happy with the thing that you have. Remember, oftentimes the things that make us happiest are the things that will lead us headlong into harm. And by harm, it can mean a bunch of different things, not the least of which is that it will limit our ability to self-actualize, to become what we could become. Ryan.
Well, I think Margaret Atwood, her heroes wants to show like someone's fear, like shining light, like someone going through cancer, like beating cancer, that may be like the monster in their life, and like he or she may be the hero by overcoming it.
Beating cancer.
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. Cancer can become this monster. You know what's really interesting? You know what the number one determinant is if a person survives cancer or not? There's no joke. The number one determinant. I bet you. Guess. Before I make bets. What's that? Your mentality towards it. If you have a positive outlook at the beginning of it, your chances are overwhelming that you're going to beat cancer. If you have a negative outlook towards it, your chances are very high that you're not going to. It's all mental. Not all mental. It's a lot mental. You know, people who approach it and attack it, and they see it as a monster, and they're like, all right, let's get cancer. You know, they go after it. They tend to defeat it. I have a friend of mine. Now, yeah, it's not part of the story. I'm just bragging. I have a friend. I have a friend who. I have a friend. You guys are like, oh, nah, this story's bullshit, isn't it? In the beginning. He's had cancer twice. And the first time he lost an important part of himself, and then the second time he got in the same spot. You follow?
Yeah.
He got nut cancer. And so, I remember one time he does jujitsu, and then I remember I can't remember what it was. I was making a joke about testicular cancer, as I tend to make jokes about these things. And then he was the one guy who's kind of like, and then after that, like, you know, he had told me, he says, I'm a survivor. I'm like, oh, that's good. You know, I said, then at least you were here to hear the joke. You know, 'cause if you. Yeah. And I told him, if you're not careful, you get it again. And he got it again. So he lost the other one too. Yeah. So that's fun because he competes in jiu-jitsu. So I want to go watch him compete and just tell him, come on, dude. Come on, with balls. Come on, you got it. He's weird. Just give up right there. But the thing about the guy is that obviously he's a fighter. He's a fighter. He lost his brother once. He lost his brother to cancer, a different kind of cancer before that. So he's not a guy who approaches it. But why do I joke with him like this? Because it really is. It is largely about attitude. You know, why did I joke about these things just generally? Some people like to, will sit there and go, oh, it's very offensive. But why is it that this stuff is important to joke about? Because yeah. You know, what's so funny? Everything. If you look at it, right? Have you ever noticed that when people are joking, they're actually being very serious? And then have you noticed that the more serious a person is, the funnier they are? You know? It's because you don't go out. I don't make the world safe. And the reason I tell you guys that jokes like that, for some reason, are true. Also because I don't make the world safer for you by telling you that there are no serpents out there. I don't make the world safe for you by telling you guys, oh, don't worry, the world's all full of sprinkles and rainbows and all of that. Yeah. Was this class captain was in the other day? Third period? She came in? Everyone's denied it was this period. Did I mention this already?
No.
She was concerned because I mentioned the word shooting in class. There are shootings from the shootings that happened last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were 2 shootings, one in Texas and one in Ohio. Yeah, 2 shootings, right?
Yeah.
Then there was one in Chicago. That's like a Monday in Chicago, 4 shootings. And then anyway, her concern was that, as I mentioned, shootings in class. And her concern was that if I said shootings in class, that you guys would be triggered and become very anxious and be worried about being in an environment where the word shooting was mentioned. Right? So I'm not supposed to mention the word shooting in class. Yeah. And I'm like, oh shoot. But why? And her thing is because student. I'll ask you. Tell me. Anybody in here highly anxious now need to go see a counselor because I mentioned the word shooting in class?
I'm good, right?
Because it's always one. Because the thing is that I cannot mention these sorts of things, and then what happens is you go out into the world where they are talked about, and you don't have an opportunity to talk about it, you only take things in. I don't make the world safer for you by telling you that there are no shootings out there. I don't make the world safer for you by telling you that there are no serpents out there, or worse yet, by ignoring that they exist. It's like you go to a therapist, has the therapist, if you have a serpent anxiety, has the therapist deal with serpents. They don't sit there and go, you have fear of serpents. Touch their pearls. Don't you worry, I'm going to go take care of all the serpents in the world. Come back, they're all dead now. No, what they do is they get you to a point where you can function in a world in which there are serpents. Because I'm telling you guys, the serpents aren't in the garden, they're out there.
They'll bring them.
What's that?
They'll bring them towards you.
Yeah, eventually they'll bring them towards you. Yeah, and they'll put you in close proximity because you're going to be in close proximity with people who say the things that I say. Remember, don't confuse that just because I say something in class, it's my real opinion, I really think it. I'm telling you these things a lot of times because there are people in the world who do think the things that I say. There are things that I joke about in class that some people hold to be reality out in the real world. And I'd rather you experience it here in a joke form for the first time or second time, rather than experience it out there and not have any skill set to deal with it. You know, because this is it's a critical thinking class. We learn how to think through these issues, so that when you do encounter the serpents in the real world, you don't jump on top of a table and cower, that you're going to be somehow functionally useful in the world around you. And moreover, functionally useful to yourself, which will increase the quality of life for you. You'll have fewer fears. You'll be able to overcome the monsters a bit better. Daniel, like 40 minutes ago, you had your hand up.
I was saying, since she's a writer, she was like probably talking about how the characters have their arcs at their climax, and so like you have to defeat the monster to be considered a hero, and for the people who don't defeat the monster, they're like considered martyrs.
I was going to talk about those archetypes as well. Yeah. Yeah, if you defeat the monster, you become a hero. If you don't defeat the monster, you become a martyr. And if you never even approach the monster, you're just like everybody else. You know? What was that? How can a monster be a hero? It'd have to be really complex. Who?
Like do like a villain and then
Oh. So he becomes hero. Oh, Loki's something different, man. Loki's the jester, man. Loki's the trickster. But I can't think of a monster who becomes a hero. It'd have to be really complex, almost like with layers, like onions, you know. Shrek. Layers, like onions. And we're going to see that there are these certain characters like Megamind and like Shrek, and you're going to see that they do follow a hero type. They do follow a hero pattern. And what makes them so interesting is that they're masked behind something else.
Yeah, I think Thanos' daughter becomes.
Oh yeah, yeah, because Thanos' daughter, she gets to a crossroads where there's a calling, and she has the choice of either answering the call to go one way or refusing the call and staying on her current path. You know, and her sister, of course, stays on that current path until she receives some redemption towards the end. You know, but yeah, we're going to see that these heroes always have this crossroads that they hit. We all do. We either receive the calling or we don't. Chicago, like, off like 20 minutes. I don't argue. I usually just kind of smile and go, okay. No, because it's just a difference in views. That's all it really is. And it was like an order, don't say this. It was just more of a concern, right? You know, be mindful of this. But then again, I taught, year before last, I taught about serial killers. And she was, I taught about psychopathy and serial killers. And she just expressed a concern about, I might have a student who had a family member who was murdered by a serial killer. So I should be mindful of that. I don't know, maybe. Yeah, exactly. What are the odds? But the thing is that you know, a lot of people get really angry at administrators and teachers. And they're, listen, man, we all work at cross purposes. One of the problems that we have. Think about what an administrator's job is. An administrator's job essentially is don't get the school sued. That's what, I did my administrator because I have a degree. I have the certifications to be an administrator. I used to fill in as an AP, so I know what these things are. Their job is don't get sued. Look at what a counselor's job is. Get you through graduation. Look at what your parents are trying to do. Look at what your teachers are trying to do. Look at what we're all working at very different purposes. You know, administrators want to go in one direction, teachers want to go in another one, counselors in another one, you guys want to go in a different one, your family's in a completely other one. And we're all trying to make this chaos work in some way to get you into what we think is going to be a good foundation for a successful life. It's not that anybody's terribly wrong about it. It's not that anyone's terribly right about it. It's not a blame game. It's just understanding that this is where people are coming from. And when you understand where people are coming from, it's easier to say, okay. Because it's not a personal thing. You get along very well otherwise, actually. Others? Yeah. So you guys are right. The monster, if the monster doesn't have a, if the hero doesn't have a monster, yeah, you gotta make one. Don't some of you guys make monsters in your own life?
Yeah.
In other words, create drama that you have to overcome. Maybe not even intentionally. Have you ever sat there and just been like, I don't know, man, life's too good. Exactly. Let's go then. You follow? In other words, we create something. Maybe not even intentionally. Not even like we sit down in our heads like I'm gonna pick up, do something like that. But we do something that we know can lead to something that's going to be negative. Because if you think about what a perfect life would look like, just like if you think that money's going to solve all of your problems, what would you do with it? Because money's going to create more problems for you. Because one of the reasons that you don't have money is because you don't know how to get it. And if you don't know how to get it, you don't know how to manage it. So if you don't know how to get money, if you don't know how to manage it, imagine if you were given a whole bunch of it all at once. What would you do with it? You're already bad at managing it, you don't know how to get it, it could make your life worse. I'm not saying that money makes your life worse. People say money is not everything, and that's true, but it is something. It is definitely something. How much money do you have to make to be happy? We actually know. It's about $75,000 a year. When you ask people how happy they are, there's a division. People who make $75,000 a year and more report a very high level of personal happiness. People who make $74,000 and less report being less happy. And it cuts right along that line. And this seems to make sense because $75,000 a year allows you to be comfortable, to pay rent, not to worry too much, do some of the things that you like to do. You make less than that, it puts more stress on you. You can't do a lot of the things that you want to do. So that seems to be the dividing line. But interestingly enough, there's almost no distinction between a person who makes $75,000 and $1 million. You might think, wow, I'd be so much happier if I made $1 million. I don't know, man. What would you do with $1 million? I already told you what I would do, right? If I had Michael Jackson money, I'd buy chimps, and those chimps would have chimps.
But sometimes, isn't there rich people who don't live a happy life? Some rich people like stress out and like finding out more ways to make more money and not losing money. And I guess that's how like they stress out and live a comfortable life.
Yeah.
Because all they focus on work and acquiring more money.
Yeah, it's about what they're acquiring and what it's about. So, for example, what I mean by that is that we always hear this thing about, the rich get richer, the rich get richer. Kind of. What we find actually, if you look at the data on it, there is a general class of people in the country and in the world who are wealthy and have been wealthy. That's a very tiny percentage number. You could probably name who they are, like the Kennedys, the Rothschilds, Standard Oil, the Morgans, and all that. But otherwise, what you find is that wealth tends to be generational. There's a person who starts off poor, who earns the money, passes it off to their children, and by the time it gets to the grandchildren, that's typically where the fortune in the family is lost. Which seems to make sense. You've got a person who starts with very little, who earns it, and knows what it's like to have to strive to work. And these people tend to be very frugal, because they started with nothing. So if you ask them, you want a Ferrari, a lot of times it's like, how much for a car? Oh, hell no, I'm going to keep driving my 78 Buick or whatever. You'll find that, that people who tend to make a whole bunch of money. What was the picture I saw recently? I'm sure some of you have seen it. It's a picture of Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, and the caption says something like a combined wealth of almost $200 billion, and not a Gucci belt in sight. Well, that's true. Because those guys look at that stuff and that's not what they're after. They're not after the status. What they're after is, Warren Buffett's after, as an investor, he's after the best investment. Bill Gates is after the best app. In other words, if you're pursuing the best whatever, well then you'll be good at it. You'll get better at it. And then it happens they pass the money off to their children, but their children were raised in that environment, so they have some level of respect for the money. But by the time that they die off, it's just the parents who are left. The grandchildren tend to not have that same respect or understanding for money, what it takes to get it. They don't understand, and so this is typically, wealth tends to be generational that way. Within 3 generations of an early fortune, the money tends to be lost. You do have some of this, of course, but this is what tends to happen. And so, and why is it? Well, it seems to make sense. This person was pursuing a passion and a desire and a dream. This person was probably living under some level of obligation. Got to follow in the family footsteps. Got to do what they did. Got to make dad proud. Who's this person trying to make dad proud? This is a person who grows up and wears the Che Guevara shirt and says fuck capitalism. And then of course they have no respect or understanding of money, and so they kind of toss it aside, or they get so wrapped up that in thinking that they're better than everybody else because they've never had to interact with anybody else.
Because they have everything handed down to them.
Yeah, everything's been handed to you. It's just like people who win the lottery. People who win the lottery, they report of over 80-something% of people who win more than more than $3 million in the lottery. Over 87% of people who win more than $3 million in the lottery report being less happy after winning than they were before winning.
Why is that?
Because you're given a bunch of stuff. We tend to not appreciate things that are given to us. Why? Because you need monsters to overcome. You need monsters to overcome. Otherwise, you're not the hero. Imagine if the hero gets out there, grabs his sword and shield, the dragon walks up and goes, and drops and has a heart attack. He's like, get up, come on! I'm not, and everyone's like, oh, big man, you're stabbing a dead dragon. No, he was alive, though. I think I scared him to death. Whatever, dude. You don't appreciate your any kind of an accomplishment. It's part of the problem, by the way, that these folks suffer from a high level of nihilism because they've never had to overcome anything. It's one of the problems that we run into right now. Like, for example, if you look out in the world, who are our enemies out in the world right now? North Korea. I mean, you can find it on a map. Without a GPS, without looking it up. Growing up, we had enemies out there. We had the Soviet Union. And then once the Soviet Union collapsed, then we had terrorists. And it was pretty centralized. It was Osama bin Laden, it was Al-Qaeda. We knew who these bastards were. And all of a sudden, we look around the world now, it's like, no, I guess there's North Korea, China, yeah. But we don't have a communal sense of something to overcome anymore. And it leads to this very high level of narcissism. This isn't just family wealth, by the way. This is also national wealth. If you look at the United States right now, we're starting off, this country starts off with almost nothing, which goes through, an explorer phase, which goes through this mercantile phase, and then we get to a phase now of a lot of people who don't appreciate what it is that we have, and we're just used to having it. We just think that that's the way the world is supposed to be, without understanding that that's not the way most of the world is. It's like if I were to, if I were to ask many of us, I don't know, you can answer for yourself, but how many people right now would be willing to sign up and fight in a war if we were being invaded by another country right now? I don't know. I wonder how many of you would sit there and go, yeah, I'll go fight for this country. How many of you would sit there and go, screw that, man? If you're the screw that, man, it's probably here. Because there's no sense of appreciation for what it took to build something like that. There's also no understanding of what's going to come after this if it isn't a thing in these ways. And so that just comes from not having had monsters to fight. There are monsters in the world. Like I said, this is why I talk to you the way that I do. Because everything is not okay. Things will not turn out to be just fine when all is not well. I don't want you to think that it is, because then that's when you walk around like, oh look, there's no serpents, and then one bites you. And you're going to be like, how come nobody warned me? I want you to know that they're there. Not so that it terrifies you, but so that you'll be aware of it. And you'll know what to do against it. What happens next week? And so what she's talking about here is having to have these kinds of things to overcome. Now, what if you're not a hero? That's okay. Not everybody is a hero. Everybody wants to be a hero. Until it comes time to do hero shit. Then all of a sudden it's not as attractive anymore. Some people are heroes, some people are not. Some people are caregivers. Some people are rebels. In the second semester, we're going to look at archetypes, and you're going to find that everybody kind of fits into some type of a personality archetype. Specifically, I'm going to show you one. I'll show you the hero one. So it's developed by an analytical psychologist named Carl Jung. I already asked you guys, how many of you guys took psychology? How many of you guys took psychology or taking psychology? Okay, so you should recognize the name Jung. Carl Jung. Carl Jung was a personality, was a mind that was so brilliant. It's like he's scary brilliant. He develops. It's actually 12, but I'm not good at drawing the circles that way. But there are essentially 12 archetypes. One of which is this idea of the hero. And the hero, and all these archetypes, essentially, they fit into categories here. And they also have deeper motivations. So, for example, the hero, if you try to figure out what's the hero after, the hero is after, essentially, mastery. The hero has to master something. If the hero never gets the opportunity to master something, then the hero cannot self-actualize. The hero has to be able to overcome something. Now, why does the hero want to overcome something? What's the real, I remember the it, right? Is it dark outside? What's the it to which you're referring? What's the real it that the hero is after? This core thing. Yeah, to master. But why does the hero want to master? What's the hero really after? The hero, at his core, wants to leave a mark. He wants to leave a mark. In other words, he wants the world to know he was there. So you have this hero, and she's going to face some dragons, so she's going to have to master them. And then why does she want to master them? Because she wants to be remembered. Martyrs are nice. If I ask you who your favorite martyr is, okay, who's your favorite hero? You probably come up with a lot more heroes than martyrs, because that's what separates them here. The hero is the one, she goes after this, she masters the dragon, she leaves a mark, and we remember her because the reason that she leaves a mark is because she comes back and tells us about it. Something quite different from a hero you've got, I mentioned before, is the caregiver. The caregiver sorry, is someone who, exactly what it sounds like, they give care. And if you got, and some of you, maybe some of you are that person. Maybe some of you know that person in your life who's always checking on you. Did you read? A lot of times it's grandma, did you read? Did you get this? You're sick? Have you taken your medicine? Yeah. Have you taken your medicine? Have you done this? Have you done that? Are you okay? And you might be like, oh my God. Maybe like you're sitting there and you're like, maybe like you have a headache. You're like, oh, I have a headache. And like, oh, I'll get you the aspirin. What do you keep for aspirin? Oh, I can get it myself. Don't worry about me. And then there's like that little like tension and argument tied between you. Yeah, stop doing that. That person's a caregiver. Just like you have to let the hero master and leave a mark in order to self-actualize, you have to let the caregiver do those kinds of things. Because the caregiver, just like the hero has to master, the caregiver has to give service. It's what gives their life meaning. It's what gives their life meaning. In the same way that the mastery gives the hero's life meaning. And then ultimately, then what is it that the caregiver is totally after? Structure. The caregiver needs to give structure to life. This is probably a chaotic personality, or a personality who sees the chaos in the world, who just wants to provide some stability and structure to life. And being able to give care allows them to control things a little bit more. And then that, of course, gives meaning to life. Now you're going to find it's very difficult. Somebody asks me like, oh, well, can you be a hero and a caregiver? It's hard, because what does the hero need to master? The chaos. This is a person who's trying to provide structure and service, trying to eliminate the chaos. The hero needs the chaos to flourish. And so what you're going to find is that people fit into a bunch of, there's 12 altogether. And once you realize what people are, there's a rebel, there's a jester, which is what Loki is. Loki's the trickster. Loki can't ever be the caregiver because he needs there to be no structure, because he needs there to be chaos.
Thor's mom.
What's that?
Thor's mom. Thor's mom.
Oh, Thor's mom.
She's
Yeah.
a caregiver. Remember, I think it was Hollywood, like Thor, I think it was Thor where had the big belly.
Which of course there's nothing wrong with, but go ahead.
Like when he had when he was he was like taking care of himself, and like I forgot where he went, but like he went back in time and started talking to his mom, or not, like he started talking to his mom, and then his mom started giving him advice like on how he could be a better person, and like
The mom recognizes him as being from a different time, right? By the way, one of the downsides to knowing all of these is that movies no longer surprise you. Also, yeah, when Endgame came out, of course nobody wanted spoilers and everything. And I had some students who had seen it, and so they asked me. I said, can you make some predictions about what's going to happen in the movie based off of that? Yeah, you can make predictions based if you know the archetype structures. And I was able to get to guess a lot of what was going to happen. And it's just not a bad thing. It's not like, oh, it's so predictable. Of course it's predictable. Why is it predictable? Because we like structure. We don't want to be in the chaos. We don't live in the chaos, man. Yeah, these things follow structures. But once you understand how the people operate within these things, now you know which of your friends, again, is the trickster, which of your friends is the caregiver, which of your friends is the outlaw, which of your friends is the ruler, which of your friends is the innocent, which of your friends is the everyman. And once you know what your friends, these people around you, what they're after, ultimately what they're feeding into, now you can help them become better versions of themselves. Yeah, you can be more than one. For the most part, you might be, there's elements, you'll have elements of like, you'll be majorly into one, but there could be an element of another one. People will, what if you're all of them? Then you're schizophrenic and you've got multiple personality disorder. Because you're not being honest with yourself. Because part of the problem with it is that you are one of these things. And again, everybody wants to be the hero until it comes time to do heroship. And there's a one of them here is the every person. And the every person, what is it that they're ultimately after? They just want to belong. What they're after is belonging. Why? Because the deep thing that they're after is just connection to others. And a lot of people are like, I don't want to be the every person. Man, why not? If it's what you are, be what you are. Because what's going to happen is you're going to tear yourself apart trying to be something other than what you are. And if you're not going to be what you are, then you're going to be something else. And that's going to make you feel really uncomfortable. You put a dog on top of a mountaintop that's wiggling around, that dog's going to be real uncomfortable. But you put an eagle up there, it's going to be very comfortable. You've got to be what you are, but be the best version of what you are. Be the best thing of what you are. Maybe you can't control which of these things that you are, but you can control the depth of which you are that thing. And therefore self-actualize. Become a powerful personality within the world. Because the everyday person has just as much power to influence the world as the caregiver and the hero. You have the power to influence the world. And that's ultimately what we're after, the ability to have meaning in life, to influence the world around us, to have purpose. Everybody has the ability to do that. Or the problem is that you might be a caregiver who's trying to influence the world as a hero. Or you might be a hero who's trying to influence the world as an innocent or as an everyday person. So, I've got so much more, but we're all running away from time. Questions? Comments? Concerns? Complaints? Criticisms? Critiques? Yeah.
Is it having too much influence badly?
It can if it depends on you. Yeah, explain what you mean so everyone understands. I can answer that.
Like how some celebrities, they have too much influence, like it drives them crazy.
Yeah, it can, absolutely. I think a good thing to consider is, this would be a good thing to look at with your teachers. I just mentioned teachers because they are people in your life who do have control over certain domain. In other words, what happens within the four walls. Think about your teachers and how they operate, and ask yourself, would this teacher make a good, let's say, king or queen? In other words, someone who's in charge. What would the world look like if that particular teacher was in charge? Sometimes just from some of the teachers I know, it would scare some of my colleagues here. It would scare the hell out of me if some of my colleagues were in charge. Because I'm terrified of what the world would look like if this was the case. And so you have to know yourself. You have to know yourself. I joke around that I've been teaching here at Sweetwater for, I think this is my 12th year, I think it is. 12th year. And every year I have about 180 students, give or take. Yeah, I interact with, and that's being nice. I interact with more than I actually have. Let's just say 180 students. That's going to be, carrying the one, Not one of you, huh? No one's gonna help me out. Let me stand up and look like an idiot.
You have to multiply 12 times 8.
6, 16, that would be 3 over there, 0, 8,
2160.
68.
2160.
71,000.
2,160 students. 2,160 students.
The calculator.
And so I think that maybe in 2 more years, I think I have enough former students, and typically people come back and live in the area, I think I could run for mayor.
Really?
Yeah, I think I could win.
I'll vote for you.
Why is that?
Same, I would. I'll vote for you.
Yeah. How many of you would vote for me if I ran for it? That's why I think I could win. And you know what I would do? You know what the first thing I'd do if I was mayor? I'd fire the asshole who gave me a parking ticket 4 years ago.
Oh, yeah, we had this conversation.
You've had this conversation. Now, knowing what you know about me now, that's why I'll be running, how many of you would vote for me? Yeah, thank you. I'm glad some of you would be like, whoa, this guy's going to be a tyrant. Yeah, I would never want to be in charge because I know what I can become. I know the dragons that are inside of me, and I know that if I ever run for office and I come to you, listen, if future Scanlon comes to you and says, guys, I need your vote, just go, dude, 2019 Scanlon told us about you. He warned us. He said not to vote for you. No, but I'm a different person now. Yeah, 2019 Scanlon said you would say that. No, but I want to make a positive change, right? That's what you said you would say. Oh, come on. I want to fire the guy. In other words, if I come to you later on and I ask for your vote, it's because I have something terrible in mind. Don't vote for me.
Mr. Scanlon,
Yeah.
but sometimes don't people change over time? Like an old person wouldn't be the same person like it was as a younger person?
Nobody changes. We just become more like ourselves.
Become more in control of ourselves.
Yeah. We only become more like ourselves. We become a little bit more cautious. In other words, when we're young, we're like, oh, I want to go outside.
I've never done that.
When we become older, we go, I'm going to go outside.
Never mind, I'm gonna stay in.
In other words, we don't really change in that way. We just change how we go about things. When we're younger, we realize we try to slam through a wall. When we're older, we just kind of realize, I still want to get outside. I can't get there by slamming through a wall. Let me be nice. Let me see if that works. In other words, our modes and intentions are the same. Our methods are the things that change. Those are the things that are different. And so, you know, which is a funny thing, because that's when we die, we never acknowledge that. Because death makes angels of us all. We always remember the positive things about us. But yeah, I mean, I like to look at a person and try to figure out what it is they would be like if try to figure out what the world would look like if that person was in charge. You know, there are some people you might look at and go, yeah, I think that's a good idea. But that's also why we have the political system that we have. That's why we no longer have, at least not in this country, we don't have a monarchy. Because you think about any one person in Congress, what one person in Congress would you want to look at and go, here, you have all the power, go for it. You trust anybody like that?
No.
No, I don't trust myself like that, by the way. Give it to a dog? No. I mean, I don't know who you give it to. But maybe that's part of the point, right? You don't give it to anybody. But one thing you do have is mastery over your own life. That's the scary thing, right? Because you can't trust yourself to run a country. Can you trust yourself to run your own life? It sounds like you've already got your work cut out for you. Master your own life. Mastery. And maybe if you can master your own life, you can leave a mark in the world. Maybe that's heroic in and of itself. I don't know. Others? Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques?